Ryan, sir, thank you so much for making the time live from Irvine. Weather nice outside, SoCal,
Yep.
can't beat it. Delighted to have you on and hear a little bit about the amazing work you're doing, leading the way with all things creators and iTrust at the moment.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Ryan Rankin. I'm head of partners here at iTrust Capital. And for those who don't know, iTrust Capital is the largest crypto IRA provider in the US. So investors who either have an existing IRA or 401k from a previous employer, for example, can roll that over. They oftentimes are very limited in what assets you get exposure to in those type of accounts. And a lot of interest growing around crypto. We also offer precious metals. So
Yeah.
they can convert over to iTrust Capital and have complete autonomy. We're a self-directed platform to where we don't give any financial advice. We're basically like, here's the platform. You obviously have a good idea of what you're wanting to allocate to, and now you have total autonomy. We have over 80 plus digital assets, as well as physical gold and silver. And actually, news of this week is we're launching over 8,000 stocks in
Amazing.
come summer. So there's a lot of options here, and it's just a really great way for someone to sort of take take more control over their retirement accounts. You can also start a new IRA with us. So for those who understand the great tax advantages of doing so, and don't have a pre-existing one, you can fund a new one with us as well.
Absolutely fascinating what you guys have done over the last couple of years. It truly is like you've revolutionized the whole concept of an IRA for all of your users. And the fact that it's really interesting as well, nearly you've gone the full scope over to crypto, built that out, kind of come back to the precious metals, which, side note, fascinating that one can actually retrieve the hard assets behind it. And now
Yep.
you're moving into the stock side of things. So really the whole trajectory from most modern down to kind of traditional, but still massively successful.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really great. And what you hear a lot of talk about these different big apps like X becoming sort of the everything app. We're trying to be sort of the retirement everything app. So it's like it'll be really cool, especially once we get equities onboarded, to where typically if someone wanted to be allocated to crypto, precious metals, equities, it's like they're scattered across all these different platforms. Now
Yeah.
you have this really awesome, safe, time-tested platform that you can basically toggle between these assets within your retirement account. So we think there's a really big value prop there, and that people are going to really appreciate having all of that in one place.
100%. It's super exciting when you think of what folks thought of in terms of IRAs 15 years ago. Super
Yeah.
dusty, kind of pretty boring, not
Oh yeah.
much. So it's really super.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. And in terms of, remind me again, what you guys are, when did iTrust Capital originally establish?
iTrust started around 2017.
Okay, fantastic.
And we did start with crypto, and we did have actually gold and silver then as well. It was just like not a very popular product. That
Yeah.
those, obviously, with the market and the crazy rally we've had in those over the last year, there was a lot of activity with precious metals recently.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the first, I would say that, there's always investors who would have some allocation and whatever, but it didn't get a ton of interest and activity until maybe the last 6 to 8 months. So it's
Yeah.
been pretty cool. And obviously, I think, in the meantime, when the crypto market kind of pulled back a bit, and then you had that kind of taking off simultaneously, our clients were really excited that we had that optionality there.
Absolutely, yeah. Isn't it? It's fascinating to see how guys who would have been involved in crypto over the last couple of years have kind of gotten pulled into other asset types where they never even would
Yep.
have been exposed to them in the first place. It's kind of interesting to see you guys bring this back in, and I guess you're at the forefront of seeing probably a lot of younger folks start to think about their IRA versus what historically was the stereotype, shall we say?
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing some younger audience get more interested. They might not have a pre-existing, IRA from a previous employer. Some do for sure, but we see more of that with the more mature crowd.
Yeah.
But they are understanding it more. I think it's an education thing, and most investors just to understand, the younger crowd at least, how beneficial having assets within a IRA is to sort of protect and insulate from capital gains tax and all these things that you just take a huge hit on. So it's not just about like what you make, which is obviously the big allure to assets like crypto. It's about what you keep at the end of the day. So
Oh,
really, I think that educational piece is big, and that narrative keeps growing, and hopefully becomes more mainstream with the younger generations.
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of education, obviously what you're doing as head of creator partnerships, you're working with dozens of creators who are essentially educating thousands of potential users and thousands of users week in, week out. And I mean that kind of clear communication that you guys deliver through those creators is really astounding. We work obviously closely with you from Fluence from an agency perspective, but I
Yes.
mean, I actually came across iTrust Capital, I think over maybe a year and a half ago, from one of your creators who we weren't working with, just that through sheer clear repetition in a super interesting and educational way, kind of really, I guess, imprinted upon me, the value with which iTrust can deliver. So I guess kudos to you, Ryan, for building out that whole department. To jump into that space, what
Yeah.
was, what did things look like at the very start of the development? Obviously, you guys probably did some traditional media. When did you get straight in, or was it straight into creator partnerships, or give us the
So
history there?
this company in a lot of ways was sort of founded on, I wasn't here at the beginning, but it was really important to the founder's vision that we get the word out through partnering with actual influencers in the space. And so it's always been a core part of the DNA. But the whole like sort of influencer economy and how the whole things worked, crypto in general, and the messaging around it's shifted so much over the last 5 years. And so I took over this program about a year ago, actually, and it was kind of like a certain iteration that we'd been running for a while, and it sort of like lost traction in a way. Um, just based on like how we were approaching the partnership program in general. And so myself and Bryce, who I think you're familiar with, we
Yeah,
came in and we kind of took a look at the whole program and said, because me and Bryce are kind of like crypto guys first and foremost, so we have a pretty good pulse on what's going on and how people are talking about things and what's connecting and resonating in the industry as a whole. And I think at the time we came in, the partners and their messaging was very still sort of like stuck in what was working in like 2021. And that just has shifted so much since then, and people aren't as interested in a lot of that sort of really just like like small cap altcoins and really
yeah,
hype oriented stuff, and all that stuff is kind of like fizzled out.
yeah,
Markets become more efficient. I think people are searching for more sustainability and like want to feel like this is actually like a long-term play, and more
yeah,
responsibility, I think. And so we're like, how do we sort of reapproach this, bring on more sort of responsible partners who are not super hypey. They talk with a really just like clear, concise, responsible approach.
yeah,
And that was kind of how it started. And we've learned a lot since then. We've seen tons of interesting metrics on the back end as far as like what is resonating, what's not. And we've allowed that to sort of educate our decision making
yeah,
as this program sort of evolves. And what we're really just seeing is there's a huge shift from kind of the style I had just mentioned to like these creators who are talking more like macro and all these different events going on, and how it affects the individual and how they can sort of prepare for what's coming. And crypto's a part of it, obviously, largely, but they're talking about commodities and how oil and everything going on in the world right now affects all markets. And I think that general approach is really connecting right now. And like you said, even these younger investors who are just fully focused on crypto are now interested in what like copper is doing, and like
Totally.
it's
Yeah.
and so that's
Amazing.
clearly a big shift that I don't think anyone really saw coming. And but it's happened, and so we have to adapt, and the creators have to adapt. And if you're stuck in that 2021
Yeah.
echo chamber, you're not going to get the there's even like sort of a negative, I think, connotation and
Yeah.
reception to that type of content, because it's like people just sort of, it's like we've been through that phase. We're not really in a high, maybe there will be some crazy euphoric hype phases in the future, and that content may do a little better at those times, but largely we're seeing just a shift towards more like sustainability.
Totally. So well articulated. It really is amazing when you look over, let's say, the last kind of 10 years, and even let's say during the history of iTrust Capital, to see the transition periods of content and even just the audience over those periods of time, right back from, let's say maybe not 2017, but you're talking 2014, 2013, 2014, people thought this was just super wild, rogue, kind of like left wing, nearly socialist like all sorts of, adjectives one could label, and then
Yeah,
into maybe like the kind of, as you said, like the crazy hype years and like the sugar rush of it all and the meme
yeah,
coins and the
yeah.
very faceless approach to content creation, a lot of
Mhm.
undoxed guys
Yeah,
and all that sort of stuff, through now to, I guess, yeah, like any asset, it becomes sophisticated, it becomes mature, people want longevity, people want to cut the BS, they want trustworthiness, and
yeah.
as you said, like responsibility, which is really something that rings through. And it's also fascinating to see like younger or creators of all ages and demographics, embrace that. But I think the really interesting point as well that you raised is just how, crypto creators in general now are really, they're finance creators, because it's no longer this
Yeah,
obscure asset that's ring fenced. It's so interlinked with,
absolutely.
oil prices and geopolitical, and
Yes.
hence why young guys are, as you said, thinking about the price of copper, which they would have sneered
Yeah,
at, 10 years ago. And
yeah,
it's really so interesting to see. You'd have
yeah,
to think, with what the likes of iTrust Capital and the creator space are doing is generally just uplifting financial education as a whole in ways.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're here to do. And people, what we've really seen is the creators that perform the best are people that really have fostered these like really core communities that trust them, that go to them for that information. And like it's a whole new era of sort of like information,
Yeah,
just like dissemination. So it's like a lot of people who don't know what's going on in the world, or with finance, or they're turning to these specific creators as their like guiding light in a way.
yeah,
And so we've seen an interesting shift in not just like the type of content that's connecting, but the type of creator. I think back in 2021, especially with crypto, it was all about these super big commercial style like altcoin channels with a million plus subs. And we don't even see, like, those are not the best performing creators anymore as far as like communities go. And we have partners with communities of like maybe 50 to 200K
yeah,
subscribers, but they're so emotionally invested and dedicated and trust in these creators, that it's such a different dynamic that like
yeah,
someone even with these giant audiences, they can't really replicate
yeah,
for one reason or another. A big thing for us is, and I think a lot of where a lot of companies are still missing the boat is, we notice that like just the super I don't know, cut and dry and sort of detached ad placement just does not connect at all. It doesn't
Yeah.
convert. No one resonates with it. I know personally, if just some like kind of shift to commercial break thing pops up, I'm always going to skip right past it, right? For one, it just feels ingenuine.
Yeah.
And I think just followers of these different creators, they feel that too. Instead of like, so we've obviously experimented with all this different type of stuff and approach to marketing and our partnerships, and we've done those, and they just don't really move the needle. And we're like, hey, what if we just, obviously, there's no secrets. We're not trying to hide anything. Let them know you're working with us, of course, but just integrate it in a way of like mid conversation. Maybe it's relevant to, like a current event or something, whether it was like a big hack or something where you could start this kind of segue talking about like our really secure, closed loop, ironclad kind of security infrastructure
Yeah.
or whatever it may be, or talking about capital gains tax and like, hey, what I'm doing personally, and our best partners are also clients. Is like, I'm making sure that I'm taking all the necessary steps to sort of protect what I do end up earning, and
Yeah.
getting ahead of it, ahead of next bull run sort of thing. So it's like naturally integrating it. So it just feels from the heart. They're personally speaking it. It's not this like same ad over and over. It's not
Yeah.
super ultra refined or like ultra curated. It's just like speaking from the heart, and that is really, we've noticed a massive shift and great success with that. Just more like
Yeah.
relaxed, kind of organic approach.
Relaxed interweave, so spot on and immensely well articulated. It really is very interesting, isn't it, how kind of smaller creators have become dramatically more powerful in the last couple of years versus there's an interesting point where someone nearly becomes more of a celebrity and less of a
Yeah.
creator, and
Yep.
therefore like less attainable, and or less one can connect less with their
Yeah.
audience. It really is super interesting how that
Yeah.
goes. And as you said, these micro creators with tight knit, really engaged communities can have a drastically kind of bigger effect through the medium of relaxed, interwoven content, not highly artificial, and just really
Absolutely.
truly kind of embracing the product. I think that goes back to the fact that you guys have an amazing product, and that's why I suppose creators who work with you guys, they tend to, well, firstly, you guys select really well, and
Mhm.
secondly is, then those creators naturally, even if they haven't, and we've witnessed this, guys who were not clients or customers of you beforehand, they
Right.
get access to it, they love it, the stickiness immediately kicks in, and then it's a no-brainer. That's the thing about
Right.
iTrust Capital. It's like it's such a no-brainer, and then it's with assets that these guys, they love and enjoy. So it's actually kind of a pleasure to talk about. And I guess you guys, actually, maybe a question for you. You've
Uh-huh.
probably stumbled across creators over the years or over the time that have probably been talking about iTrust Capital, but not necessarily being sponsored or in any
Yeah.
engagement with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually been a fairly common theme, where we're like, well, you're already kind of doing this. Like, let's
Yeah,
make sure you're first like compensated appropriately, and
yeah,
and that's so cool, that they're a believer in a client first, and those partners always perform the best because
yeah,
like it is so genuine, and you just feel it. It's like,
yeah,
you feel like you're I don't know, you're in the room with the person and they're just like really breaking down what they do in their personal sort of like finance routine.
yeah,
And that just, it resonates. It does. And yeah, it's exciting for us. Like once we realized, after just kind of, experimentation and analyzing these different metrics over a certain amount of time, and that like these smaller core communities are kind of where things are shifting to. It's more fun for us because we're more connected to it. Like we get
yeah,
on the phone with guys like you and are just way more personal.
yeah,
Whereas with like the really big like commercial style, I think that's how you referred to it, or like a
yeah,
celebrity, you're really not even, they don't want to talk to you personally. They don't
yeah,
really care that much. They usually have some sort of, I don't know, intermediary,
Yeah.
and they're just, I get it. They've got a whole, it's a massive business probably at that point, and they have people working for them,
Yeah.
and they're just there to make that money, for just like any ad opportunity they sort of get, and
Yeah.
that's fine. That's what it is, and sometimes those can work. I mean, we've worked with everyone, even from like big political names like Tucker Carlson,
Yeah.
um, but that was not nearly as productive as like a really core, engaged community of like 50,000, which is
Yeah.
insane. He's got
Incredible.
like millions and
Yeah.
millions. And so actually a really exciting time for us. And we get to spend a lot of like personal time with these creators, and create real like relationships with them. And, we
Yeah.
text with them, we're always talking. Like, to me, that's like the future. And I think that, um, I don't know. I don't see a ton of companies quite understanding this yet. They're
Yeah.
still they're still thinking that they need to do the really rigid ad
Yeah.
placement stuff, and it's like, you know, uh, we've just personally seen that this approach that we've kind of like shifted towards and are continually obviously improving upon, and figuring out more and more has been really impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like that playing the long game with the smaller creators obviously it's win-win for everybody. They're super excited to, to talk about and utilize a product that they love and believe in. From
Yep.
your guys' perspective, obviously there's a value piece there, and obviously there's the ability to get in early with an audience, and then it just, the audience truly just becomes so magnetized towards iTrust Capital because it's so organically weaved, as we say, into the content. I'm,
Yes.
I'm I'm curious to ask. Obviously, the core of everything that we do together is
Yeah.
on the YouTube side. But have you guys spotted any sprouts of kind of good stuff from? I know we do a little bit on X here and there and reaffirm what we're doing. But are you seeing any platform where you're like, wow, surprised to see there's actually a bit of traction coming from over here?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you brought that up, because as a company like us, like, you need exposure across all platforms, from the Meta stuff and Instagram and Facebook, and obviously X is where the real like kind of crypto conversation and big, crypto community is largely, but
Yeah.
it's not where the conversions are happening. It's for us right now, it's like all YouTube. I
Yeah.
mean, we do get a little bit on X, but it's pales in comparison. And I think there's a few different reasons for that. I think from what I just kind of have gathered is that on X, people are there sort of just to like, um, I don't know, like communicate with one another, and the way the content works, it's not super sticky. It doesn't
Yeah.
make it as easy to sort of link out to like other pages, you know what I mean, and check out other stuff as
Yeah.
like YouTube is. And I think actually like the biggest component to that for us is just the nature of our product requires like longer form,
Yeah.
um, format, as far as like the education aspect of it. So it's like someone can do a post or whatever. It's very quick, and it's hard to get all the real like, important info
Yeah.
out there in such a short, whether it's just a quick tweet or a
Yeah.
really short video or whatever. So yeah, I think anyone who's active on YouTube and X probably sees something somewhat similar. But there's Rumble and other things popping up that we're exploring more, and I'm sure that other platforms will become more viable. But just right now, YouTube is king for sure.
The sheer minutes under the belt, isn't it? Exactly, for to develop the education as someone
Yeah,
is kind of going through it. It's yeah, can't be beaten. That's really good to hear, and interesting as well that there's the ancillary stuff, but it's not probably still worth maybe keeping it in your a creator's wheelhouse to
sure.
reaffirm, but not for the transactional stuff. Exactly,
Yeah,
really.
exactly. And YouTube, there's like kind of different features that people are tapping into more from like the members only stuff,
Yeah.
and that's really impactful. The lives have been really impactful, depending on how the creator utilizes that function.
Yeah.
Um, I think one thing that I've just kind of personally taken note of is kind of back maybe more like 2021. Smaller creators looked at the big kind of celebrity style channels and they tried to emulate it.
Yeah.
And inherently following that sort of structure didn't connect as much as they should have with
Yeah.
their own audience on a personal level, and thought, I don't know, that that's just the way you do it, and you sort of want to like act like a celebrity and you're sort of like detached and whatever. But
Yeah.
like now all these smaller influencers are figuring out like that's not really the play here. The play is to like be so personally engaged with
Yeah.
this really ravenous community that you've created. And so the lives are a really cool way for people to do that, and like people can, um, chime in on the message board, and the creator can like engage individually, give shout outs, and it just like is one extra layer of like connection, which has
Yeah.
been super impactful for the ones that do utilize that. And I recommend all of them honestly should, for that specific thing of obviously talking about the content they're passionate about and into, but almost as like a way to really like connect further with their follower base.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good advice, actually. It brings everything to life, and it gives an audience member a chance to feel like they really engage. I guess that's why
Exactly.
it's great to see, kind of the well, it's actually interesting, and I know it's not relevant necessarily to this, but it's interesting to see, streaming platforms like Twitch, for example, outside
Yeah.
of the US, are like, Latin America, for example, like insanely big, and just, the
Huge.
connection there is crazy, and it's great to see, I guess, US based YouTubers bringing that aspect of regular lives into their flow, because, as we
Exactly.
both know, a lot of creators tend to nearly just accidentally habitually not do it. Like they'll do it, they'll find it works, and then whatever happens, they travel, don't do it live, and then before
Mm.
you know it, it goes. But it's also a great point that you make about how, the 2021 concept was, you have to have the perfect studio, the lighting, everything was amazing, and you got to feel like you had a team around you, versus
Yeah.
now there's guys who are doing kind of like walking and talking videos, and they're getting 50, 60,000 views,
Yeah.
and it's really, I
Yeah.
guess, amazing to see.
It is. I was actually going to bring that up. It's like people almost crave the more
Yeah.
human, like raw stuff in a way now. And when I talk one on one with guys, I'm like, keep doing you don't have to like completely get rid of the super studio-esque curated stuff, but maybe just keep that for like your main videos, or weave in some more like raw stuff, like just out and about and talking, keep it kind of off the cuff, and
Yeah.
also use the lives for that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the main channel posts allow you to sort of like create your like core content, like what you're really about. People learn it, and then
Yeah.
you get to like talk about it with them in like the live setting in just like a super kind of like natural, uncut way.
Yeah.
And people love that. Like it just connects, I think.
Yeah.
Especially a big component to that is how like AI and everything is affecting just the way people think, and everything's
Yeah.
become so like unhuman,
Yes. Yeah.
to
Totally.
where when like any chance you can get to feel more like connected to someone in a really real manner, I think just
Yeah.
connects even harder than it used to.
So true. It's really like, it's crazy, isn't it? When we look at from a creatorship standpoint, like going back, what, 20 years, 23 years, whatever, when YouTube initially kicked off, obviously
Yeah.
super raw. Most webcams were
Yeah.
horrific, but and then we're nearly getting to a place, obviously, with dramatically more HD, but we're getting back to
Mhm.
a place where pure raw authenticity is key. And I guess that brings me towards a really exciting feature that, as you mentioned, you guys are launching. We've got 8,000 stocks coming on
Yeah.
stream, iTrust Capital, in the near future. Talk
Yeah.
us a little bit around that. That's a immensely exciting proposition.
Yeah, it's huge for us. and from the, especially for myself, you know, in the partnership sort of sphere, it's really exciting because I will be able to branch out to, you know, tons of different creators and audiences that we didn't really have exposure to before. Because, you know, a lot of the really core, just like finance or stock only guys may not want to work with sort of like a crypto specific company.
Yeah.
So now it really helps us tap into just like this much broader audience, and that's exciting for me. But and then just the program in general, I expect to sort of accelerate with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so though that will be an option within our IRA, which is the tax advantage accounts, as well as the premium custody accounts, the PCA, to start. And you can just kind of think of, for those who don't know, our PCA account is like it's non-tax advantage. It's sort of just like our version of a standard brokerage account. For those who are already on the platform, like how it works, love the security, love the 5-star customer service ratings, and being able to get like high touch, just great customer experience whenever they sort of need. You're just not getting that, especially within the crypto world, really anywhere
Yeah.
else. So that whole team is based here in Irvine as well. We don't
Amazing.
outsource any of it. So yeah, it will be available for the IRA and the PCA to start. Eventually, it'll come to our treasury accounts, which is basically a pretty unique offering we recently launched, to where those with businesses like LLCs, or if you have a trust, you can put assets such as Bitcoin or any other digital asset we offer, physical gold, silver, and eventually stocks when we open this up to it, onto their balance sheet. So it's sort of
Very interesting.
it's a, you know, another way to sort of protect your assets at a kind of deeper level, and, you know, do sort of like the, obviously, treasury companies have gained a lot of notoriety over the last couple of years, but it's more just for people to be able to add it. You know, they're like, I don't want to just hold cash
Yeah.
on my balance sheet. Like, I want to have some you know, hard assets on there as well. So this is a really good option for them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
It's massively helping with the democratization, really, in a way, of you know, these assets. And also you're allowing someone who, you know, may in the past not have really had the ability to possibly know how to kind of attach assets to a trust, and, you know, now that's becoming a hell of a lot more plausible
yes,
with this feature. And I
yeah,
guess a separate note is really so exciting on the stocks front, given, you know,
mhm,
from a, and you guys are really, like, you know, the shining light of this, and showing everyone this is happening. But, you know, TradFi or finance creators and crypto creators, they're all kind of becoming the same, more or
yes,
less the same wheelhouse.
yep. It's all sort of merging, and
Yeah.
that's like, to me, that's just what mass adoption looks like,
Yeah.
especially when for crypto. It's like, you know, you see all these big institutions talking about adding it to their balance sheet and offering it to their clients, whether it's, you know, Fidelity or Charles Schwab, or, you know,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of big news there. So it's like, it's just becoming another asset class that
Yeah.
the average person can interact with however they see fit,
Yeah.
obviously. And that's great. And that's kind of where we as a company really sit at like this intersection between sort of like crypto and TradFi. Our
Yeah.
CEO Kevin Maloney, he sort of describes us as Web 2.5. So it's like,
Love it.
yeah, we're kind of in the middle there, and so something like this really like is hugely beneficial, and I think it's going to be a game changer, honestly, for the company.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely with you on that. Ryan, I'm super grateful for your time today. I definitely would love us to have a catch up in 3 or 4 months to talk more on the
Absolutely.
stock stuff, the asset protection stuff. I think this is really exciting kind of content for myself anyway, personally, and also for the creators that we're working with, and also for those that are interested in working with iTrust Capital, you know, just to get in, be a user, learn it, feel it, touch it.
Yeah.
And as you said, you know, guys who are sharing it kind of from the heart as such, it clearly resonates dramatically more with their audience. So yeah, ton of takeaways from your time today. But yeah, again, super grateful, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, and hopefully some partners or potential partners uh, took something from this, and it could benefit them down the line. I think it's an interesting time to be an influencer in this space, and I think there's a huge opportunity. Even though the market's down, we have some incredibly performing partners right now, which just shows that it's way more about how you sort of approach messaging and content, and there's tons of opportunity right now. So yeah, thanks for having me. Good times, and let's do it again soon.
100%.